Before I take you through this story, let me ask you something. What would you do if the person you loved, raised, trusted with your soul, ended up betraying you with your own child? Would you break? Would you forgive? Or would you make them regret it for the rest of their lives? Let me know in the comments right now. Type yes if you think betrayal like this is unforgivable, and no if you believe anyone deserves a second chance. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because this isn't just a story, it's a lesson, it's a warning, and for some of you, it might be your reality. I used to believe my life was the kind people envied. Not because of money or status, I'm not flashy. I'm just a man who wanted something real. And for a long time, I thought I had it. 12 years ago, I married Octavia Rice. Beautiful, smart, funny in her own sarcastic way, the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking into it. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. Built from the ground up. The kind of love you work for. The kind you keep. At the time, I had a son from my first marriage. Colin Nichols. He was 10 when Octavia came into our lives, and she stepped in like she was made for it. Never tried to replace his mom, never overstepped, just showed up, loved him, supported him. We became this little trio. Dad, wife, and son. We had our Sunday barbecues in the backyard. Neighbors like Rodrigo and Aaliyah Nicholson would swing by. Colin tossing burgers on the grill like a mini chef while Octavia made those sweet tea lemonades she was famous for. Laughter, music, fireflies buzzing in the dusk. We were a family. Every Friday, Octavia and I had our date nights. Just the two of us. She loved those quiet little Italian spots, you know the kind, dim lighting, candles, soft jazz in the background. She'd always order penne arrabbiata and steal bites off my plate like she hadn't ordered food for herself. And Colin? He was a good kid. Smart, respectful, maybe a little too charming for his own good, but I was proud of him. We'd go fishing on Saturdays. Just me and him. Man to man. He'd talk about school, girls, dreams about starting his own tech business one day. And I'd listen, thinking this is it. This is what life's about. And Octavia, she cheered him on like a second mom. She'd help him with college essays, bake him his favorite chocolate chip cookies after a rough day. They'd tease me together, joke about how old school I was for not knowing how to use TikTok or whatever app was trending that week. They were close. Maybe too close. But I didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to. Because when you believe your life is perfect, you don't look for cracks in the glass. You don't ask why your wife and your son are always whispering in the kitchen. You don't question the long hugs, or the way she started calling him handsome like it was some little inside joke. No. You just smile. You keep flipping burgers. You believe in your home. In your family. Because you think, love like this doesn't break. But I was wrong. And by the time I saw it, it was too late. You ever feel your world shifting without anything actually moving? Like, you're in the same house, the same room, but the warmth is gone. The color drained out. The voices echo instead of sitting in your chest. That's what it felt like when things started changing with Octavia. It started small. That's how it always starts, doesn't it? Our conversations used to flow, light banter in the mornings over coffee, late night chats before bed, her feet tucked under my leg on the couch. But slowly, the words got fewer. Shorter. Colder. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd just mumble, fine. I'd share something funny from work, and she'd barely react. No smile, no spark in her eyes. Just this distant hum of that felt like a wall going up between us. She started picking fights over the smallest things. The trash not being taken out on time, the way I folded the towels, even the way I breathed too loud during her shows. It didn't feel like us. It felt like I was living with a stranger who happened to wear my wife's face. And then came the errands. Always at odd hours. Always rushed. "I'm just running to the store real quick," she'd say, grabbing her keys. "Again?" I'd ask, confused. "Didn't you go earlier?" She'd pause, her eyes unreadable. I forgot something. No kiss goodbye. No warmth in her tone. Just the click of the door and the sound of her car pulling away. I tried not to think too much of it. Told myself maybe she was stressed. Maybe work was getting to her. Maybe she needed space. But then Colin started acting weird too. He used to be so open with me. Always had something to say. We'd watch basketball together, grill on the weekends, argue about music, him with his rap playlists, me clinging to 90s R&B like a lifeline. But now he avoided me. Slipped into his room the moment I got home. His shoulders tight. Eyes low. Sometimes, I'd find him in the kitchen with Octavia, and the second I walked in, silence. Like I'd interrupted something. They'd both look at me, startled, like I wasn't supposed to be there. And then came the phones. Oh man, the phones. I remember the night I saw Octavia texting on the couch. Her thumbs moving fast, her lips curled into a slight smile. I leaned over casually, trying to steal a peek, not because I didn't trust her, but just, curious. She immediately turned the screen face down. I laughed it off. "Who you hiding over there?" She looked up too quickly. "No one. It's just Aaliyah. Aaliyah Nicholson. Colin's ex. They still talk sometimes, or so I thought." I didn't press her. Just nodded. But a knot had already begun to tighten in my gut. Then I caught Colin doing the same thing a few days later. Sitting at the dining table, typing furiously on his phone. I walked by and suddenly. Screen locked, phone flipped. "Something wrong?" I asked. He shook his head without looking at me. "Nope. Just texting Rodrigo about a school project." "Rodrigo?" "His old mentor from shop class." I tried to laugh. "You been out of that class 2 years, Colin." He didn't respond. Just stared at his plate, jaw tense. I told myself maybe, just maybe, they were planning something. My birthday was coming up in a few weeks. Maybe they were planning a surprise party. Yeah. That made sense, right? That's what I told myself as I ignored the quiet inside the house. That's what I told myself when I saw Octavia walking out of the shower late at night, with a smile on her lips I hadn't seen in a long time, not with me, anyway. That's what I told myself when I walked past Colin's room and heard hushed voices, then silence when the floor creaked under my feet. Because the truth. It's easier to believe a lie you made up than to face the truth that's clawing at the back of your throat. I was still holding on to the dream. Still gripping the picture of the family I thought we were. But dreams, they don't shatter all at once. They crack. Bit by bit. And mine was about to explode. I wasn't supposed to be home that night. I had flown out to Houston for a 2-day work trip, client pitch, hotel meeting, fly back the next morning. That was the plan. But the deal closed earlier than expected. I hopped on the first flight back, thinking I'd surprise Octavia. I thought it would be romantic. You know, walk through the door, see the look on her face, maybe grab takeout on the way home. I even stopped by her favorite Thai place, the one she swore had the best green curry in the whole damn state. I still remember the scent filling up my car. I was smiling the whole way home. I had no idea I was driving straight into hell. I pulled up to the house just after 9 p.m. Porch light was on. No sound, no movement. The driveway was empty. Colin must have taken his car. I didn't think much of it. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air was still. Too still. No TV playing. No music in the background. Just silence. Octavia? I called out, setting the food on the counter. Babe, I'm home early. No response. I figured she was upstairs. Maybe in the bath. Maybe reading. I started heading toward the stairs when I heard it, faint voices. Muffled. Laughter. Then a soft gasp. I paused. It sounded like she was on the phone. Or maybe FaceTiming one of her girlfriends. But something felt off. It wasn't the words, I couldn't make them out. It was the tone. The rhythm. Too intimate. Too breathy. And then I heard it again. A moan. Low. Sharp. Cut off quickly. My heart sank. I remember standing there frozen, one foot on the bottom step, holding my breath. My pulse started to race, ears ringing, mind spinning through every possible explanation. Maybe she was watching something on TV, on her iPad, maybe, but I knew. Somewhere deep down, I knew. My body moved on its own. I climbed the stairs, slow, careful, like if I took one wrong step, the truth might knock me out before I got there. The hallway was dim. Her door was cracked just enough to catch a sliver of light spilling out. And that's when I heard the laugh. His laugh. Colin. I pushed the door open. And the world stopped. There they were. Octavia. My wife. Her silk robe hanging open, one shoulder bare. Her hair a mess, skin flushed, her mouth parted in shock. Colin. My son. Half-dressed. Shirtless. His jeans halfway zipped, panic in his eyes. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just stood there, gripping the doorframe like it was the only thing holding me up. Octavia scrambled to close her robe, stammering. Graham. I didn't expect. Colin took a step back like he'd seen a ghost. Dad, wait, Dad. He still had the nerve to call me that. I backed away. The hallway started spinning. My throat closed up. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears, like a drum of war echoing through my skull. Octavia reached for me. Graham, please, let me explain. I stepped back. Don't, I whispered. Don't you dare. I turned and walked. Down the stairs. Out the door. I didn't even grab my keys. I just walked. I don't remember where I went. Maybe to the park down the street. Maybe to hell and back. I just needed to get out of that house. Out of that moment. Out of my own body. Because what do you do when you catch your wife, the woman you've shared your life with, your bed, your soul, in the arms of your own son? I sat on a cold bench under the streetlight, hands trembling, mind blank. I tried to piece it together. Tried to rationalize. Tried to breathe. But the truth just kept screaming in my head, my wife. My son. My family. They betrayed me. Together. And the worst part? I didn't see it coming. I saw the signs, the late nights, the distance, the secret looks. But I told myself it was stress. I told myself they were planning something sweet. I told myself lies. And now I couldn't unsee it. Couldn't unhear the way she gasped his name. Couldn't forget the way he looked at me, ashamed, guilty, but not enough to undo what he'd done. They didn't just cheat. They shattered me. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't cry. Couldn't scream. I was numb. I didn't know if I wanted to destroy them, or destroy myself. Because nothing hurts like being betrayed by the two people you loved most in this world. And this? This was betrayal in its purest, most twisted form. I didn't go back to the house that night. Couldn't. I slept in my car, or I guess you could say I sat in it. Sleep never came. Just this crushing weight pressing down on my chest, stealing every breath, every thought, every piece of who I used to be. My wife. My son. It played on a loop in my mind, like a movie I couldn't pause. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Her robe slipping off her shoulder. His hands scrambling with his belt. That look in their eyes, like I had walked in on some terrible joke I wasn't in on. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Didn't go home either. I parked behind an abandoned warehouse down near the industrial lot and just sat there. No music. No calls. Just silence. Hours passed. I didn't move. When night fell again, I finally drove back. Not to talk. Not to listen. Just to get some clothes. The house was dark. I didn't want to see them. Couldn't bear to. I went in through the garage, grabbed a duffel bag, threw in whatever I could reach, shirts, sweats, my toothbrush. I didn't look in their direction. Didn't look upstairs. That house was no longer mine. It was a crime scene. I checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town. The kind with buzzing neon signs and curtains that smell like bleach and bad decisions. I stayed there. 4 days. Didn't eat. Didn't shave. Didn't answer texts. Didn't care. The man I used to be, proud, present, dependable, he disappeared in that bedroom the moment the truth came out. What was left was just a hollow shell. Just as Patterson, my childhood friend, tried reaching out. Left voicemails, yo, gee, heard something crazy. You good, man? Call me back. Then there was Amir Dorsey. The type of guy who never missed a Sunday golf game. Always cool, always calm. He texted me, you don't have to say anything. Just let me know you're breathing. I didn't reply. What was I gonna say? Yeah man, my wife was sleeping with my son. But don't worry, I'm fine. No one's fine after that. But the worst came 3 days later. I was sitting on the motel bed, staring at the wall, when my phone lit up with a message. Addison McDaniel. Octavia's old coworker. The one who always smiled too wide, hugged too long, and lived for drama. Her message. I always thought Octavia had eyes for someone younger. Guess I was right, smirking face. I stared at it. Read it twice. Then rage took over. I grabbed the phone and launched it across the room. It hit the wall, hard. Shattered into pieces. Just like everything else in my life. I started drinking. Not a slow sip, not a sad beer, drinking. Straight whiskey. Cheap, angry, bottom shelf fire in a bottle. I drank until I didn't feel anything. Until the pain dulled just enough to let me sleep. Until the memories blurred. Until the only thing louder than the silence was the scream inside my head begging to be let out. I thought about disappearing. Leaving town. Starting over. Hell, I even thought about ending it. Just, stopping. No more pain. No more questions. No more walking into a room and seeing pity in people's eyes. But then something stopped me. A voice. Mine. Buried deep under the heartbreak, under the grief, under the shame. It whispered one word, no, not like this. Not on their terms. Not when they were out there playing house, while I sat here drowning. If they thought they had broken me. They had no idea what was coming next. 3 weeks. That's how long I spent in that motel. Drinking. Hiding. Fading. Every morning, I told myself I'd leave, that I'd do something, anything, to pull myself out of the wreckage. But every night, I just ended up right back where I started, staring at the ceiling, asking the same question, why? Why her? Why him? Why me? And then, came the knock. I remember it clear as day. Rain tapping against the windows. A soft knock at the door, like whoever was on the other side wasn't sure if I'd even answer. I almost didn't. But something made me get up. I opened the door. And there she was. Aaliyah Nicholson. Colin's ex-girlfriend. She looked different, older, maybe, like she'd aged 10 years in the last 3 weeks. Dark jeans, hoodie, hair pulled back into a messy bun. Eyes sharp, but tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep, the kind that comes from being betrayed. We just stood there for a second, both of us unsure of how to even start a conversation like this. Then she spoke. "Hey. Graham. Can we talk?" I stepped aside and let her in. She sat on the edge of the bed, arms crossed, tapping her foot like she had fire running through her veins. And then she said the words that cracked my numbness wide open, "We've both been burned. You by them, me by him. And I'm not the type to just sit back and let that slide. So here's my offer, plain and simple, let's make them pay." I didn't say anything at first. Just stared at her, processing. She wasn't crying. She wasn't broken. She was angry. And she came ready for war. "Why now?" I asked. My voice was hoarse. I hadn't used it much lately. Aaliyah's jaw clenched. "Because I've been doing some digging. And what I found, it's worse than you think." She reached into her bag, pulled out a folder, actual printed pages. Texts. Screenshots. Emails. She slid them across the bed. "Octavia didn't just sleep with your son. She groomed him, Graham." The word hit me like a slap. Groomed. Aaliyah pointed to the texts, messages between Octavia and Colin that started 1.5 years ago. Long before the affair. When he was still with Aaliyah. When he was just a kid trying to figure life out. "Look at how she talks to him," she said. "All this stuff about how misunderstood he is, how you don't get him, how he's more mature than people his age." I read them. And my stomach turned. She complimented his body. Sent him subtle pictures, not explicit, but suggestive enough to blur the lines. She encouraged him to explore his feelings. She told him to keep their talks between them. And worst of all, she painted me as the villain. "Your dad doesn't understand you the way I do. You're special, Colin. You deserve someone who sees that. Don't feel guilty. Love is complicated." My throat tightened. Hands shaking. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation. Predatory. She had twisted my son's mind, lured him in, made him believe he was the one in control, when in reality, she was pulling every string. Aaliyah looked at me, her eyes full of fury. "I loved him," she said. "And she stole him. Twisted him. And now she's acting like she's untouchable." I felt something inside me shift. Like the fog had cleared, and what was left was something cold. Sharp. Focused. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was about justice. About consequences. About making sure they never did this to anyone else ever again. I looked at Aaliyah. "Okay," I said, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. "Let's destroy them." That night changed everything. After Aaliyah left the motel, I didn't sleep. But for the first time in weeks, I wasn't drowning in grief, I was focused. Sharp. Alive. I looked in the mirror and saw a man who'd been broken, but not beaten. Not yet. So I started over. First thing the next morning, I dumped every bottle of liquor in the trash. I won't lie, my hands were shaking the whole time. That whiskey had been the only thing numbing the pain. But I didn't want numb anymore. I wanted clarity. I wanted control. Next, I checked out of that motel. Booked a rental cabin just outside the city. Quiet. Clean. Secluded. I needed space to think, to breathe, to plan. I signed up for therapy. Private sessions. No one needed to know. First appointment, I sat there with my arms crossed, barely said a word. But the therapist, Dr. Tegan Golden, was patient. She didn't push. Just let me sit in the silence until the words started crawling out of me like broken glass. Week by week, I started piecing myself back together. And once I started thinking clearly, I hit the gym. I'd let myself go. Physically, mentally, emotionally. So I got up every morning at 6 a.m. and punished the weights like they owed me something. Every rep was rage. Every drop of sweat was grief leaving my body. I wasn't working out to look good. I was training for war. And that's when I reached out to Major Holloway. Old college buddy. Back in the day, we were tight, frat brothers, football teammates. Life took us in different directions, but we always stayed in touch. Major had a reputation for one thing, getting answers. Now he was a private investigator, and a damn good one. I gave him one name. Octavia Rice. He raised an eyebrow when I told him the story. I could see the disbelief flash across his face, my wife and my son, but he didn't say a word. Just nodded and said, "I'll find everything." And I mean everything. 2 weeks later, Major called me. "You might want to sit down for this one." I didn't sit. Just paced around the cabin as he laid it all out. Octavia Rice wasn't even her real name. Born May Torres in a small town in Florida. Changed her name legally after some sealed juvenile records were filed away and forgotten. 2 arrests, one for credit card fraud, another for identity theft, both expunged before she turned 18. Then came the trail of manipulation, 2 ex-husbands, both of whom had filed restraining orders after the divorce. Major tracked down one of them, Marco Sutton. The man told him she had drained his accounts, wrecked his business, and nearly cost him custody of his daughter. Then there was the real estate fraud. Turns out, Octavia had been quietly funneling funds through a fake LLC, O'Connell Group Holdings, claiming it was a consulting business. But Major traced the routing numbers and proved it was a shell. No employees. No office. Just her name. She'd been siphoning off money from a rental property I didn't even know we owned, a house under my name that she'd leased without my consent. She wasn't just a liar. She was a predator. A manipulator. A professional con artist who had played me like a fiddle for 12 years. And the worst part? She'd gotten away with it before. But not this time. Not with me. I started laying the traps. Quietly. Carefully. I opened new bank accounts, moved my investments, rewrote my will, and filed a private financial review of all our assets through Rodrigo Nicholson, Aaliyah's father, a seasoned estate attorney who had no love for Colin after what happened. Rodrigo was ruthless. Precise. Efficient. He smiled when I told him what she'd done. "She's not ready for the kind of storm you're about to bring," he said. I wasn't rushing it. Revenge isn't about the moment. It's about the build-up. You don't scream and shout when someone betrays you. You go silent. You disappear. And then, when they least expect it, you ruin everything they thought they had. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I say it's best served slow, with strategy, precision, and enough patience to let your enemies believe they've won, just before you pull the floor out from under them. And that's exactly what I did. By the time Major Holloway handed me everything I needed to destroy Octavia, I was no longer the broken man sobbing into a motel pillow. I was focused. Calculated. Dangerous. But I needed the right partner to execute the legal side of the plan. That's where Rodrigo Nicholson came in, Aaliyah's father. High-powered attorney, 10 steps ahead of most people on his worst day. When I told him what Octavia had done, the fake identity, the hidden properties, the fraud, his eyes narrowed like a wolf catching the scent of prey. He didn't ask if we should take her down. He asked how far I wanted to go. "You want scorched earth?" he asked. I nodded. "Good," he said. "Because I've been itching to burn something down." Together, we built a case file, airtight. We pulled property records, subpoenaed bank transfers, requested her employment files, and used a quiet favor Rodrigo called in to get into sealed court records tied to May Torres. The truth started pouring out like poison from a cracked pipe. Octavia had lied on multiple employment applications, used forged credentials, and falsified a college degree. She had never even graduated. Just faked the whole thing and hoped no one would look closely. But we looked hard. And while Rodrigo and I worked the legal angles, Aaliyah worked the shadows. She reached out to a few anonymous gossip sites, local blogs hungry for scandal. Didn't take much. One email with the subject line, "Suburban mom caught sleeping with her stepson," and the floodgates opened. She attached a blurred image, a carefully angled shot of Octavia and Colin exiting a hotel together. I don't know how she got it, and I didn't ask. It went viral. Fast. One blog picked it up. Then another. Then a gossip podcast. And just like that, their perfect little life started to unravel. Octavia tried to do damage control at work, showed up all smiles, acting like nothing had happened. But the HR department had already received a tip, anonymous, of course, along with copies of the falsified degree and the real arrest records under May Torres. She was escorted out of the building by security 2 days later. No job. No income. No backup plan. Then came Colin's scholarship. See, my son, the version of him that used to be mine, had earned a full academic scholarship to a top tech university. But universities don't like scandal. And they especially don't like hearing their golden boy is part of a headline like, "Affair between stepmom and stepson exposed, family torn apart." The board issued a formal review. Aaliyah, using a burner account, forwarded the screenshots of Octavia's messages, the ones where she groomed him, blurred boundaries, encouraged secrecy. The scholarship was revoked. Just like that. Years of hard work. Gone. And they still didn't know I was behind it. That was the best part. They thought their lives were falling apart because the truth got out. They had no idea it was me, pulling every string, timing every move, tightening the noose around their reputation with every passing day. They thought they were smart. They thought I was broken. But the thing about betrayal? It changes you. And once you stop crying, you start planning. They destroyed my peace. So I made sure they'd never know peace again. It had been about a month since everything started falling apart for them. Octavia, jobless, exposed, socially radioactive. Colin, scholarship gone, public shame plastered all over the blogs, and whispers behind his back that would follow him for years. I'd heard through the grapevine that they'd moved into a one-bedroom rental on the edge of town. Octavia had sold her car. Colin dropped out of school. I didn't have to lift a finger anymore, gravity was doing the rest. And then, fate handed me something unexpected. A run-in. I was at Jaden Horton's grocery, just grabbing coffee and some fruit before heading to the gym. I wasn't thinking about them. Wasn't even planning on confrontation. But then I turned the corner by the refrigerated section, and there they were. Octavia and Colin. They looked like ghosts. Colin had grown out a beard, patchy and unkempt, wearing the same hoodie I bought him 2 birthdays ago. His posture was all wrong, like life had folded him in half and he hadn't stood up since. He saw me first. And he froze. His eyes dropped to the floor. Wouldn't even look at me. Good. He shouldn't. Octavia turned around, pushing their half-empty cart, and locked eyes with me. I swear the color drained from her face. She looked wrecked. Makeup barely covering the dark circles under her eyes. Hair thrown into a messy bun. Her sweatshirt hung off her like she'd lost 20 pounds in 2 weeks. She opened her mouth like she wanted to speak, but nothing came out at first. Then finally, she whispered, "Graham, I didn't say anything. Just stared." She stepped toward me, hands trembling around the cart handle. I need you to know how sorry I am." Her voice cracked, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I used to love, scared, uncertain, small. But that woman no longer existed. And whatever apology she thought she could offer, it was too late. I didn't blink. Didn't soften. I just leaned in slightly, just enough for her to hear me clearly over the low hum of the fridge behind us, and said, "You chose to destroy a family, now live with it. That's it. No shouting. No drama. Just the truth." She recoiled like the words had slapped her. Colin still hadn't looked up. Not once. Coward. I stepped around them without another word, grabbed my coffee from the shelf, and walked away. As I pushed my cart to the front of the store, I caught one last glimpse of them in the security mirror above aisle 6. Standing there frozen, like statues in the ruins of what used to be my life. Only now. They were the ones buried in it. And me? I was already walking free. You know what the worst part about betrayal is? It's how it makes you feel invisible. Like the pain you carry doesn't matter unless someone else sees it. Validates it. Understands it. I spent months buried under that kind of silence. But not anymore. I wasn't just going to let Octavia and Colin rot in private shame. No, their betrayal deserved a spotlight. So I gave it one. I wrote a letter. A raw, no-holds-barred, open confession. I titled it, "How My Wife Slept with My Son." No filters. No euphemisms. Just the truth. I laid it all out, the affair, the manipulation, the emotional grooming, the lies, the consequences. I didn't name them directly. I didn't have to. Anyone in town already knew who I was talking about. I sent it to Itana Klein, a blogger known for her raw exposés on family secrets and relationship betrayal. Her site wasn't mainstream, but she had reach, especially with women. I'd read one of her pieces years ago and remembered thinking, she makes pain visible. Itana called me 2 hours after I sent the email. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked. I was. The piece went live the next morning. And by noon, it had over 250,000 views. The comments section exploded. People were outraged. Heartbroken. Shocked. Some said they cried while reading it. Others shared their own stories, spouses who cheated, families torn apart, step relationships that blurred lines they never should have crossed. It hit people hard. And it spread like wildfire. By day 2, it had made its way onto local news forums. By day 4, I got an email from Marco Sutton, a regional reporter who ran a televised series on community scandals and human interest stories. He wanted to feature me on a segment titled, "Betrayed by Blood, the Husband Who Lost Everything, and Fought Back." I declined the interview. I wasn't doing this for fame. I just wanted the truth out, and for once, the world finally knew what kind of people Octavia and Colin really were. And that's when Rodrigo stepped in with the legal hammer. See, while the world was busy sharing and reposting the story, Rodrigo had filed a court motion to freeze all joint accounts Octavia and I once shared, including the ones she tried to reopen under her fraudulent LLC. The court approved it. Her assets? Frozen. Her emergency fund? Seized. And the cherry on top? Rodrigo filed an injunction preventing her from accessing any marital equity until the fraud investigation closed. Which meant she had nothing. No money. No job. No protection. Just a last name she'd tarnished, and a reputation so radioactive, even her closest friends had stopped returning her calls. Octavia wasn't just unemployed anymore. She was a social pariah. And Colin? He was nowhere to be found online. Deleted all his socials. His friends stopped tagging him in anything. Word was, he'd left town and was living with a cousin 2 hours north. Did I feel bad? No. Not even a little. Because what they destroyed wasn't just a marriage. It was family. It was trust. And the only reason I hadn't burned them to the ground earlier, was because I wanted the fire to be big enough for the world to see. Now. Everyone saw it. And I didn't even have to strike the match. Time passes. Scars fade, but they never fully disappear. And the truth is, I never expected everything to be okay again. But peace? Peace is something you fight for. And after everything, the lies, the betrayal, the collapse of my home, I found it, in the last place I thought I would. With Isabella O'Connell. We met through Rodrigo, one of those things that doesn't feel like fate, just good timing. She didn't ask questions about my past. Didn't pry. She just listened when I chose to speak, and stood beside me when I didn't. With her, I didn't have to explain why I sometimes fell silent in the middle of conversations. She just understood. One chilly morning, we decided to grab coffee before heading out for the day, a little cafe in the heart of the city. Cozy chairs. Warm light. The kind of place where people come to exhale. We ordered our drinks and found a table by the window. She was laughing at something I'd said, that light, effortless kind of laugh I hadn't heard in what felt like a lifetime, when I saw her. Octavia. Alone. Sitting in the back corner, staring into a cup she hadn't touched. Her eyes were hollow. Her posture slumped. The woman who once carried herself like she owned every room, now looked like she was waiting for someone who would never come. She didn't see me at first. But when she did, everything in her face crumbled. I saw the apology in her expression before she even mouthed the words. I'm sorry. No sound. Just breath and regret. I looked at her. The woman who tore my family apart. Who played God with two hearts and thought she could walk away untouched. And what I felt, surprised me. Not anger. Not hate. Not even sadness. Just, nothing. A silence where the pain used to live. I nodded once. Calm. Controlled. And I turned back to Isabella, who was stirring her coffee like she hadn't even noticed the ghost lingering behind me. We finished our drinks. Talked about everything but the past. And when we left that cafe, I didn't look back. Because some people don't deserve a second glance. Some betrayals don't deserve closure. Some scars are best left closed. Octavia. She thought I'd never find out. She thought she'd won. But now. She's lost everything. And me? I walked away. Free. Whole. And finally at peace. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. If you've ever been betrayed, broken, or left behind, you're not alone. And if you're learning how to stand again, one step at a time, you're not weak. You're healing. Make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment if this story hit home, and subscribe if you want more stories that aren't afraid to tell the truth, no matter how messy it gets. We've got more coming.